All right, how's everybody doing? Good? Wow. What a good-looking bunch that we have in front of us. Todd. Where's Todd at? You didn't tell me I was going to be talking in front of a bunch of supermodels, Todd. You got to tell me that to give me a heads up sometimes. Yeah. 1 second. I got something in my pocket here. Let me unfold this. Oh no. Oh, no. Hell no. God damn it. Ugh. Too much? A little bit? Yeah, I know. This,
I thought it was perfect.
thank you. This overly dramatic reaction is you. And you, and definitely you, Kevin. the collective you. After just finding out that you have been sued for personal injury, negligence, breach of contract, or any of the 100,000 causes of actions that a souped-up, overzealous attorney is going to bring against you and your estate. And the worst part is, you know, your assets, those things you worked so hard to obtain, they're now on the chopping block. Chop, chop, right? And even if you win, let's be honest here, who really wins a lawsuit other than attorneys, right? Yes. You're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars in attorney fees, years off your life. Court costs, experts. You get the point? And that's not even counting the intangibles. Lost sleep, stress, psychological and physical depletion. Gray hair, or in my case, white hair. You can't see it now, but believe me, it's there, guys. Oh, and the energy suck that comes with being drawn into a highly contested lawsuit. Hi, my name is Ruben Martinez. I'm an estate planning, real estate, and asset protection attorney. And today, I'm going to share with you information that is going to do one of two things. One, it's going to scare the crap out of you. Okay, so buckle up. And two, it's really going to scare the crap out of you. Okay? To help me illustrate my points and to provide some framework for some Q&A later, I want to give you guys a hypothetical. You guys cool with that? Okay, so in this hypothetical, we have Susan. And Susan is a successful engineer who decides that she wants to invest in real estate, okay? So Susan finds a property, buys a property, finds a tenant, and lo and behold, Susan is a landlord. Is everybody still with me? Okay, so everything for the first year is great, right? Susan has this tenant named Jerry. Jerry is a model tenant, never complains, pays his rent on time. Everything is wonderful until it's not. One winter day, Jerry slips and falls on I shouldn't be laughing. Slips and falls in an icy driveway and breaks his back. And he breaks his back, poor Jerry, right? Or if you don't like that example, let's pretend that Jerry loses his footing on a faulty handrail or loose floorboard and breaks his leg in 3 places. Or maybe Jerry just finds himself on the wrong end of a pothole. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how Jerry's injured, just that he is, and more importantly, that he's injured on Susan's property. So now what? We got to hold somebody accountable, right? Who else is going to pay for Jerry's medical bills that in just 1 week have soared to 6 figures and each day climb exponentially? What about Jerry's pain and suffering? Lost earning capacity, physical therapy, emotional distress. You starting to get the idea? So how bad is it? How bad is it for Susan really from a liability standpoint? Well, that depends. To answer that question, I want you to consider 2 separate scenarios. One, Susan owns the rental in her own name, right? So I'm going to draw a little house right here. Susan owns the rental in her own name. And then scenario number 2, Susan owns the rental in an LLC, okay? So let's take the first example first. Susan owns the rental in her own name. Well, it doesn't take an asset protection attorney to tell you that by owning the property this way is no bueno. And Susan is asking for trouble in the worst possible way. Because now, why you ask? Because now not only is the rental subject to a Jerry lawsuit, but everything that Susan owns in her own name or that can be tied to Susan is now subject to that lawsuit, including her home, her bank accounts, her stocks and bonds, her business interests, all the way down to the loose change in her pocket. Now, you might be thinking, Ruben, there's no way that a judgment would ever touch Susan's rental property because Susan has insurance. And insurance is going to take care of everything. Insurance is going to protect Susan, right? Well, I don't know, is it? I mean, it depends, right? First,
we got sued a year ago, property and LLC. Insurance didn't pay out $100,000, and then they dropped all our premium for a whole portfolio. So
there you go. There you go, right? To truly answer that question, we would have to know what kind of insurance policy Susan has in the first place, right? Is it a standard landlord policy where it's, on average about $500,000 per incident payout, 3 incident max with an aggregate payout of 1.5? Is it more? Is it less? How much does a broken back compute to in dollars and cents anyway? Now, what if I told you instead of one injury, now we're talking about multiple injuries? Or instead of a broken back, we're talking about a fatality. Or an injury so egregious that poor Jerry is going to need medical attention for the rest of his life. Does that change your perception on insurance? How many of you still think that Susan's in the clear and that insurance will take care of everything? You want to raise your hands? No takers? How fast with the sending attorney fees and medical bills will it be before Susan has reached her policy limit and now Jerry's coming after her personal assets? What do we think, guys? Fast? Really fast? Or super duper fast? Right? If you said the latter, you're probably right. Now, can Susan purchase high coverage insurance and supplement that with an umbrella policy? Sure. But we'll get to that later. For now, we'll just assume that what she has is grossly insufficient in light of Jerry's injuries. Okay? Next, you're probably thinking out loud, Ruben, a limited liability company. That's it. That's the answer. That's going to be Susan's saving grace. You're not wrong. An LLC will provide a shield for Susan's personal assets, assuming, of course, that Susan is doing everything she's supposed to when it comes to running that LLC. Now, I'm just going to assume, first off, for argument's sake, that when it comes to the formation, operating agreements, tax returns, bank accounts, etc., that Susan's doing everything she's supposed to as it relates to this LLC. Now, but the real question is there commingling going on? Now, I'm going to answer this next part with a series of questions myself, right? Is Susan using the LLC as her personal piggy bank? Or is there actual separation between the LLC and Susan, right? Is Susan borrowing from the LLC and calling this a business expense? And who's paying for that Cabo trip? Is that coming from LLC funds? And is she writing off as a business expense when it really isn't? Now, I know some of these things sound intuitive and obvious, but believe me, guys, people get in trouble for this stuff. Next, is her personal assets being commingled with LLC assets? And what about that Jerry's rental check anyways? Those payments, are those going into Susan's account? Or are those going into the LLC accounts? Or 50-50, right? And what about those mortgage payments? Who's paying for that? Is that coming from the LLC, Susan, or both? Guys, when it gets fuzzy and it's no longer clear where the money's coming from and where it's going, that's when you get in trouble, right? Because now you're giving a court the capacity to hold you personally liable for the LLC's debts and liabilities. And believe me, you don't want that. Poor Jerry over here wants that all day long, but you don't, right? So bottom line, LLC is good as long as you're on top and keeping it locked in as far as the operation and separation. Okay, so that's that. So are we done? In other words, should we call it a day on account of rain? Oh, I still got a couple more tricks up my sleeve, guys. So what if I were to tell you that with the right type of structuring, that Susan never even had to get sued in the first place, right? Now you're probably screaming at this point, Ruben, you have lost your mind. And the answer to that question is, yes, I have. However, anonymity, guys, more times than not is going to be your saving grace. Why? Because it boils down comes down to one fundamental truth. No personal injury attorney on this planet anyway, is going to take a case when there's not a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. They're just not. All right? So what if I were to tell you that we could make Susan's assets invisible? Not really. I'm not a magician after all, but on paper, okay? If we can do that, then we can deter a lawsuit from forming in the first place. And that's the ultimate goal, isn't it? So how do you put this in practice? First, you start by removing Susan's name from deeds, LLCs, fictitious business names, anything that can tie her to her personal property, right? So how do we put, that's how we put that into practice. By removing her name, because I want to give you a third scenario really quick. I want to pivot and give you a third scenario. So in this scenario, we're not talking about Jerry anymore. As a matter of fact, give Jerry a rest. The poor guy's been through enough. We're skipping Jerry for this one. So imagine something bad happens. Doesn't matter what it is, right? And insurance isn't going to bail Susan out. So Susan is liable. So this attorney, like I said, the first thing he's going to do, he's going to run an asset search on Susan to see if she's even worth going after. Now, he's going to come across the deed to this property right here, to this rental. All right? That's probably going to be inevitable. He's going to come across this deed, but we're cool. We're still good because the deed just says that the LLC owns it, not Susan, so she still has that level of anonymity. So are we done? Is that it? No. Unfortunately for Susan, this attorney is going to dig a little deeper, and he's going to check the Secretary of State website where this LLC was registered. And lo and behold, he's going to find out that Susan is in fact the owner of this LLC. And you best believe that a lawsuit is in the near future for poor Susan. Now, guys, if you're in a similar boat where you have a business and you're registered at LLC, it doesn't matter what kind of entity you're registered, but your information is public record, you're making it way too easy for a would-be plaintiff or a creditor to come after you personally. Why? Why when there's a better way? Now, all Susan had to do in this hypothetical was to create another LLC. This is going to be a Wyoming LLC. Okay, I'm sorry for my penmanship. And have this LLC own the rental LLC. Why? Because now when this attorney pulls up those records, he's going to see that the Wyoming LLC owns this rental LLC. And then when he pulls up the records for the Wyoming Secretary of State, he's going to hit a dead end. Because in Wyoming, members are not a matter of public record, only the registered agents. And you could nominate somebody in Wyoming to be a registered agent. You could have a principal place of business that says you're in Wyoming. Okay? Let that sink in just for a second. Go ahead and take a deep breath, guys. You guys deserve it. Okay? Anonymity. Anonymity is hugely important, right? And it can't be overstated. Because let me clear up a common misconception. Victory is not based on whether or not you prevail in a lawsuit. That's hogwash, right? In my opinion, if you're drawn into a lawsuit in the first place, you've already lost, right? Victory, true victory, the barometer for victory should be whether or not you're brought into a lawsuit in the first place. That's where anonymity comes into play, guys. And you start by removing your name from public records. That's the first part. That's winning the first half of the battle. The second half of the battle is protecting your assets and mitigating damages in the event that you are sued, right? Because sometimes that's just going to be inevitable. Okay? And last but not least, you tie everything we've talked about thus far into your estate plan. How? Well, guess who owns this Wyoming LLC? Your freaking trust. You're right about that. So, when you die, all your property, your personal property, your real property, all your real estate, your business interests, your non-business interests, down to that mint condition Nolan Ryan baseball card you've been rocking for the last 20 years, it all will go to your loved ones seamlessly. And the best part is, the most important part is, without probate attorneys and without court involvement. You guys have been great. Thank you.